5 more reasons why you are getting mediocre college counseling in high school. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. Almost 4 years ago now, I created a video entitled "The Major Problem with Public High School Counselors." And in that video, I dived quickly into the topic of most public high school counselors not having any formal college admissions expertise at all. And they're thrust into a high school setting where in many cases, a huge percentage of their job is in fact providing college admissions support and guidance to high school students. And that's a real problem, right? And so that's why I wanted to alert everyone to the fact that high school counselors, even if they're trying very hard and have the best of intentions, are often, especially in public school settings, really not always in the best position to best support a high school student who needs good college admissions counseling. Today, I want to dive into 5 more reasons why you are likely, regardless of your high school, whether it's public, private, parochial, domestic, international, you name it, why you are very likely to be in a situation where you are being set up, basically, by the system to receive mediocre college counseling in your high school. It's really sad. And having worked in high schools, I want to again preface this video by stating that I know for a fact that there are many high school counselors who want to do their very best, who actually have great expertise, and particularly high school college counselors, individuals who are employed specifically by a school to provide college admissions guidance and counseling to students throughout their high school experience, particularly in the 11th and 12th grade year in high school in the United States. There are many well-intentioned, well-meaning, extremely knowledgeable souls spread around the world trying to provide this in high schools. But even if they exist in high schools, which is not always the case, of course, sometimes you actually do get adult. That's a word I've been using a lot in videos recently. Sometimes you just get a high school counselor that really doesn't know anything about anything. And so I feel really bad for you if that's the case. But even if you have one who actually knows a lot and is trying his or her hardest to provide strong college counseling, it is still likely you are receiving mediocre college counseling in your high school because of 5 big themes we're going to talk about today. So reason number 1, that's not really a theme, it's a reason. But reason number 1, this could be the case with private schools and parochial schools in particular. There is a situation where, because there are not standards in many cases at a private school of who gets hired to be a college counselor, it's up to the school administration, whoever's doing the hiring, sometimes we'll talk about in a moment, in partnership with a search firm. But even if it's all done in-house, many high schools, particularly elite private high schools or expensive private high schools that want to brag about the fact that they do a really good job of placing students in colleges and universities around the country and or world, they like to hire individuals who are former or current college admissions officers at colleges and universities across the United States. So the thinking goes that this person has been on the college side. They're going to have inside information, and they're going to bring the prestige of whatever the college they're coming from or colleges they've worked at previously to our high school, so that when we can introduce this individual to the parents or the students, we can say our new director of college counseling or our new associate director of college counseling most recently worked at Swarthmore College, or most recently was the associate director of admission at Rice, or most recently was on the recruitment team at Ohio State. Whatever the case may be, obviously at some schools you can snag someone from a really elite college or university. Imagine running a private school and having someone come in to your college counseling office who just previously was the director of admissions at Penn, and now he's the associate director at your private high school on the main line, or in the Philadelphia suburbs or in the Philadelphia area. Let's just put it that way. That's a big get, right, for your high school. Now, you may be saying, where are you going with this, Craig? Wouldn't that be actually a really big get to have? And in some cases, yes, but in a lot of cases, no. Just because you've worked in admissions for 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, even at an elite college like an Ivy League school, does not mean you have the skill set to provide college counseling to high school students and families from 9th through 12th grade. Now, you may have a lot of inside information about how decisions were made at your college or university or the college or universities that you worked at, but it does not mean that you have the bedside manner to be a college counselor to 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds and their parents. And it doesn't mean you know the tools that you need to know in order to be able to submit effectively and efficiently all the documents in support of your students. It doesn't mean you know how to manage a caseload of anywhere between 30 and 90 or more students in any given grade. It doesn't mean you have the experience of what's the best time in which to talk about the lists with students versus what's the best time to talk about resume developments with students. So there's a lot of skill sets that a high school counselor should have that a college admissions officer or even a director of admissions at a prestigious college or university may not have. But just because you plop that individual into a high school setting doesn't make them magically know how to do their job. They're going to be doing a lot of on-the-job training. Again, I'm not saying that they don't have value added. In many cases, they do have value added to talk about how applications are read on the inside, and maybe they have a lot of contacts on the other side of the desk, as they often say in the admissions world. But even sometimes they don't have that. And especially if they're coming from that not that selective of a college or university, the utility of hiring someone from the admission side is minimal in my mind, especially considering the fact that in many cases they have to do a number of years worth of learning how to actually unfurl and deploy a timely, grade-appropriate, grade-specific college counseling curriculum to the students in their caseload. They're lucky if they come to a situation where that infrastructure is already developed. But imagine just taking someone who is currently an associate or assistant director or dean of admission at a particular prestigious college or university and giving them the role of director of college counseling in a private or parochial high school and saying, okay, start running with it. And there may not be that much of an infrastructure at that school. Maybe the previous director left and took everything with them, or maybe there wasn't strong structures in place or systems in place beforehand. That would be like a nightmare, in my opinion, because that person may, again, be really strong in admissions, but they don't know necessarily how to engage with students in grade and age-appropriate ways and their families throughout the entire four-year high school experience, when to do group programming, when to do in-school programming for smaller groups, when to do one-on-one counseling meetings, and what to talk about at different times. So again, I think there is something to be wanted from such an individual, that you ideally want more experience actually providing college counseling day in, day out over the course of the four-year high school experience, as opposed to just pulling someone from the admission side who may be great in terms of visiting high schools, may be great in terms of reviewing files, but has not had to actually engage, not just, by the way, with the parents and the students at a high school on a daily basis, but also with English teachers and history teachers and principals and associate principals and deans of students and academic deans and athletic department personnel, all of which you have to very professionally and regularly interact with. Directors of communication at lots of schools, directors of development, sometimes even boards of private schools. These are skill sets that I'm not saying this individual can't develop, but often they haven't had the myriad demands put on them that they're going to find themselves now have put on them when they're in actual private or parochial school, even if they aren't working in a public school, because of what we talked about in the previous video, i.e., in most cases, admissions officers do not have masters in school counseling, so they can't even get hired in a public school. Again, that's more mentioned in the previous video. So that's number one for today. It's just the issue of building on this idea of admissions expertise being so important for college counselors to have, regardless of the school setting, public, parochial, or private. The other extreme, of course, is that you bring someone who's an expert in admissions, an admissions officer, a director of recruitment at a college, and they have no counseling experience. That's a problem too. You want to have a happy medium where you basically have someone who knows how to counsel, has counseling etiquette and skills and the skill set, but also has admissions expertise. Just because you've worked in an admissions office does not mean you know how to manage a college counseling caseload. Motivating students to get their applications done and done well is a very different skill set from promoting a college or university or assembling a class at a college or university. So keep that in mind. That's number one. Number two is unrealistic expectations in terms of caseload size. This is true, of course, not just in public schools, where many times we have a situation where there could be 400 students per counselor in a high school, public high school. That's horrifying. And even if, again, the college counselor is trying his or her best, or the school counselor is trying his or her best, providing college admissions counseling to students, when you have 400 students in your caseload, that's very hard. And sometimes it's even 400 students per grade. I mean, that's an extreme situation, but it could happen. And you can imagine you're going to get mediocre college counseling from any expert, even if he spread or she spread so thin. But even in private and parochial schools that are smaller or small public schools, I find that anything over 35 seniors to one college counselor is going to spread a college counselor thinner than he or she should be spread to provide top-end, top-flight college counseling. And one of the reasons I no longer work in a high school full-time is because very few private schools, even very high-priced private schools, are willing to give college counselors caseloads smaller than 35 students per grade. But that's really what you need to have if you're going to have the attention of the college counselor at the appropriate times every step away along the process. Once a college counselor has more than 35 seniors in his or her caseload, it becomes very hard for that college counselor to create a bespoke, personalized college counseling experience. And at that point, they're relying more on systems and processes, some of which can be nice and important to have in place, regardless of the size of the caseload. But it's not going to replace the regular check-ins and discussions necessary between the college counselor and the student and the family in order to really create a smooth journey throughout the high school experience, particularly 11th and 12th grade year, when there need to be regular check-ins to discuss changes in the list, reviewing the essays, reviewing the resume, discussing about the pros and cons of ED here or EA there or regular here or priority there, when there's a waitlist situation or deferral situation. If a college counselor has more than 35 seniors in his or her caseload, it's really hard to, in a timely manner, provide the guidance necessary to really support, with white glove service, if you will, the student and family every step of the way. So keep that in mind. Even if you have the best professional in the role in the high school, once that individual has more than 35 seniors in a class, it just becomes hard. They're only one person. They need to sleep. They need to eat. They need to go home. They need to attend to their personal matters. Imagine having 35 balls up in the air that are all applying to college at the same time, and sometimes anywhere between 9 and 20 colleges. I mean, that's a lot for one college counselor to get in his or her mind and juggle. And we can all pretend we're great multitaskers. No one is that great of a multitasker. So you can imagine how disaster it is. And I've been in a situation before in a high school where you're given more than 35. Again, almost in all cases, I was given more than 35 per year. But sometimes, some years, depending on who had left the office, there was a year in which I had 150 seniors all to myself with one college counseling coordinator or administrative assistant. Thank God I had her. She was a godsend, but that was still 150 seniors to myself that I had to basically create letters of recommendation for each of them. I had to send not only the letters of recommendation for me, but also their teacher. I created the counselor letter of recommendation. I also had to send their teacher recommendations for all 150. So that's at least 300 teacher recommendations, and proofread them to make sure there were no issues or name changes halfway through the letters of recommendation. And then on top of that, I had to make sure their transcripts were correct. And sometimes the registrar's office or whoever is producing the transcript is not producing a correct transcript. So you can imagine the internal machinations and struggles to make sure everything is accurate before you send it out. This is a full-time job, This is a full-time job with 35 seniors. This is forgetting the fact that that counselor also has 9th graders, 10th graders, and 11th graders likely in his or her caseload. So when is this person really going to have time for the 11th graders, 10th graders, and 9th graders? They're not going to really have that much time until second semester. And if they give any time to those individuals younger than 12th grade year in first semester, they're going to be ignoring seniors who need urgent care, if you will. So it's really hard once you go above 35 seniors. I would make the argument an ideal situation would be, frankly, 25 seniors in a caseload or fewer. But again, very few private schools, even ones with amazing budgets, are willing to go that low. And so that's why, again, you're getting mediocre college counseling in your high school. Not because the counselors are intending to do it, but you can't expect Herculean results from someone who only has 24 hours in a day and is just human. Well, number 3 reason is college counselors are being assigned other roles beyond college counseling, particularly in private schools and public schools. I mean, public school counselors, of course, in many cases are also dealing with social emotional issues. They are school counselors. That's why they got the master's in school counseling. So they're often dealing with a whole spectrum of counseling related issues, in addition to being like the go-to college counselor on campus. But on the private school side, even if the role is explicitly just supposed to be college counseling, like the person's title is associate director of college counseling or director of college counseling, they're doing so much else. In many cases, the high school, as a part of the contract, or even not a part of the contract, is still requiring the college counselor to be a coach 1 season per year. So that takes like 2 to 3 hours a day, being a coach of a lacrosse team or a baseball team or a dance club, or maybe a faculty advisor of a political club or Model UN. And so that, not to say that those are not important roles to get to know the students as well, but that's eating out time from that person's schedule when they have already a caseload likely above 35 seniors and therefore 35 students per grade, where they're doing things that have nothing to do with college counseling, really. I mean, maybe they're developing stronger relationships with students, but in many cases, it's not even all the students in their caseload. So what's the point? So you have a situation where it may be lunch duty, or maybe they have to manage a study hall, or maybe they have a small caseload of advisees that are just there for, other. This adds up. Oh, again, imagine if you have 70 high school seniors in your caseload or 60 high school seniors in your caseload, and then you're also the, God forbid, a fall sport, assistant coach of the soccer team. This is the prime time of year for you to actually be doing so much stuff related to ED and early action for your seniors. And then you're doing a fall sport on top of it. At least give them a spring sport or her a spring sport to be the faculty advisor or coach on. But again, this is unrealistic expectations from high school principals or heads of school who want to squeeze every little bit of blood out of your turnip that is your college counselor. They want to, make more money on this college counselor than they're spending on this college counselor. And so they are assigning them these other roles. Sometimes college counselors are also history teachers or English teachers. And I'm not saying they don't want to have an opportunity to dive into their passion. Maybe they came from the world of teaching and they want to keep teaching French, or they want to keep teaching history or English. But that is time that in case part-time teacher, part-time counselor is going to not be being a full-time college counselor. And like I said, full-time college counseling is a full-time job. It's a full-time job in order to provide bespoke, personalized, really top-end college counseling to students in school. So if you're in a situation with even a well-meaning counselor who also is teaching Spanish, that person is spread too thin, in my opinion. In my opinion, he or she is spread too thin and is not able to provide the top-end college counseling that you deserve as a student and or family. And that's, again, reason number 3 why you're getting mediocre college counseling in your high school. I mean, other tasks that are sort of at least more related to college counseling are also thrown on college counselors that distract them from providing really strong college counseling to families. One of these is, of course, being the director of services for students with disabilities. So like being the person who actually puts in for extended time for students for the ACT and SAT. Imagine that. I've done that before. I've been the director, sort of the SSD coordinator at a particular school, several schools actually. And depending on the number of students who need accommodations, that in of itself becomes a full-time job. If you're interacting with ACT and SAT and gathering the forms necessary to submit in order to get students extended time on the SAT, or a separate room testing for the ACT, or whatever, maybe working with a computer or large font or large type, whatever the accommodation may be needed, I have worked at schools where 25% of students need accommodations. And if you have a class of 100 students or more, that's 25 kids per year needing accommodations. Extrapolate that out by grade level. If you're getting 100 kids at any given time per the 4 grades that need accommodations, at any given point, you may be asked to help start the process or finish the process or manage the process of helping a student get accommodations on standardized tests and school-based testing. So many times college counselors are also given the extra title of SSD coordinator, which is services for students with disabilities or differentiated learning coordinator. That is a huge ask to put on a college counselor who is now potentially distracted from providing the college counseling necessary. In addition, many schools also put on the college counseling office coordinating of SAT and ACT exams on weekends or even during the school day, or AP exams in May, because that's a lighter time of year. Many times college counselors are also asked to organize the graduation ceremony or the awards ceremony, or the, like I said, the AP exam schedule, and be sort of the faculty sitting in all those exams, administrating the exam, like a proctor. I'm not saying that's not something that a college counselor would not love to do. They, in many cases, might like to do that. But that now is eating into time that could be devoted to advising the juniors more ahead of their senior year, or getting a jump start with the sophomores, or doing more parent nights with the freshmen at the end of their 9th grade year and their families. So you are spreading that college counselor too thin when you are being assigning that individual too many duties beyond actually providing college counseling to the families in question that are paying the tuition dollars in the case of a private or parochial school. But even in a public school, many public school counselors are asked to do many things like that as well. And it's hard. And they have even higher caseloads, which is a nightmare. Number 4 reason, now this is where it's going to get a little more controversial. Schools hire for style over substance, particularly private schools and parochial schools, but particularly private schools. The one benefit of going to a public school is like there has to be an objective, you need a master's in school counseling. I don't think that's a great criterion for hiring someone for being a college counselor in a high school, but I can understand why it's a good criterion to be a school counselor. But again, many public school counselors are also doing double duty there. But for a private school, in many cases, as long as the person just doesn't have a criminal record and has a undergraduate degree, you can get hired. And so that opens up a huge pool of candidates who might be hired for the wrong reasons. And so in our world today, in the United States in particular, individuals I find in private schools often being hired as college counselors, whether they be directors of college counseling or entry-level college counselors, are often hired for, let's just put it this way, the wrong reasons. Style over substance is what I would say. All different reasons. Maybe because they're a good coach and they're being hired to really be the football coach, but they'll dress it up and give them more money as a college counselor full time. Or maybe they're being hired because halftime the person's going to be the director of DEI, and halftime they're also going to be an associate director of college counseling. And so again, they're being hired mainly for the DEI aspect and not for the college counseling expertise aspect. Or maybe the administration at the school is all male and they really just want a woman in the upper administration at the school, or vice versa. Maybe the upper administration is all female. And many times the college counseling role gets hired to sort of balance out the demographics, let's just put it that way, of the leadership of the high school or the school. And so again, if it's an all-female administration, maybe they want a male in there. But these are not reasons to hire someone who's a college counselor. You should be hiring a college counselor based off, can the person be a good college counselor to the students and families? And of course, can they be a professional colleague, with the math department, the English department, who they're going to have to liaise with in order to get teacher recommendations and play nice with just in the lunchroom. And there's got to be reasons you're hiring someone beyond, oh, we're hiring them really for this backdoor reason, but they can do college counseling. Unfortunately, the psychology of many individuals doing the hiring, especially at private schools often, is, college counseling, you can learn that on the job sort of, and it's already sort of 50 seniors to one counselor, but we need diversity at our school in this way, that way, the other. And again, I'm not just pointing at race or gender diversity. I'm talking about all forms of diversity. And, many times the college counseling takes the brunt of that, whereas you can't obviously fake being a math teacher as well, though I know it happens in math too, and it happens in English, it happens in history at private schools all the time. But because the college counselor role is not literally having to teach a 40-minute class every day or an hour long or 90-minute class every other day, I find that high school and private school administrators are more apt to put someone hired for the wrong reasons in college counseling than they are as a math teacher or a science teacher. You can't have someone faking it being a physics teacher, right? Whereas someone can make the argument, if they're an unscrupulous school leader, that, oh, they'll put this guy in, or this girl in college, or this lady, in college counseling, and the team will train the person up. They'll be fine. That's why you're getting mediocre college counseling in your high school. The person's hired, the person doing the hiring or the people doing the hiring are looking for the wrong credentials. Let's just put it that way. They're hiring for the wrong reasons. Style over substance is what I would say yet again. They want to. This is another really good point. Many times the person being hired is hired to keep the peace. They're hired because they have a really good disposition. They're very friendly. They seem to know to network well. They're very nice. They keep people happy in the moment. But the problem with that is sometimes as a college counselor, you need the person to tell the family or the student hard truths. And that could make them upset in 10th grade or 9th grade to hear that, oh, maybe you're not taking the hardest classes. This is going to boomerang back on you and prevent you from getting into an Ivy League school. But many times, the individuals doing the hiring for the college counselor role wants to just hire someone who is not willing to share the truth if it keeps the family happy over the short term. And what that ends up doing is creating a real problem where by the end of their high school experience, the family's really pissed off because they realize had they known something or had the hard truths shared with them earlier, the student would have been in a much better situation by the end of his or her college admissions process. So many schools want to simply hire someone who will keep everyone happy over the short term at the expense of someone who will ensure the students and parents leave happy at the end of high school. That again is included with sort of hiring for style over substance. And then finally, I will split this out into a fifth final reason today. There are more reasons, of course, but I don't want to go on all day, is private schools in particular outsource the hiring in many cases to search firms. This is a real problem. This is why many times you get individuals coming into a high school for a few years and then moving across the country to go to another high school. And then they do it a couple, it's like they are like diplomats. They go for 2 or 3 years in a location or a post, and then they go to another post. They don't ever develop a real rapport with the school culture. They don't really integrate as well. And the search firms, similar to what I was just describing before, are often hiring for more superficial reasons or through their pool of preferred candidates than really conducting a robust search for the right individual for that school and that school's culture and that school's families and that school's students. And so you get a lot of individuals hired with all this hoopla around them and press releases that Carney Sando and Associates has helped us with this search for our new director of college counseling at our high school or our prestigious private high school. And we did a worldwide search. And as a result, we have this individual who's worked in college counseling for 25 years, most recently at this Ivy League school. And before that, she was an associate director of college counseling at this prestigious school in LA. And before that, she was a college counselor at this prestigious school in Miami. And the problem is when someone comes in like that, they, of course, are owing allegiance to the search firm. The search firm may have picked them out of a small group of people that sort of are their stable of go-to people. And that individual may not be a great fit for the school and also may not be a great college counselor. Again, maybe they have a really good network within the world of private search firms. I picked on Carney Sando as an example. I'm not picking on them more than any of the other search firms. There are other search firms out there that do this. But it's nothing against any individual search firm. It's mainly just to be very honest with you that the search firms are often not able to create, again, a bespoke enough of a recruitment experience to find the right person for the role for that school culture and the pros and cons of that school culture. And so you end up getting someone in there who may have been hired for stylistic reasons, as I mentioned earlier, but also if hired for all the right reasons, it sometimes is not a good fit, and oftentimes is not a good fit. And oftentimes that person lasts a long time because they came with prestigious sort of reputation or the right recommendations and the blessing of the search firm. But do they have the blessing of the parents of the school, the students of the school? Not necessarily. It's an outsourced process, and the search firms often have their go-to types of hirees, right? And it's an incestuous world, just let's put it that way. And there are certain characteristics that do go well with search firms or do appeal to search firms when search firms present 2 or 3 candidates to a particular private high school. And then there are certain characteristics that don't play well with search firms, and therefore those people keep getting shut out from having roles in high schools. So you're picking often from the same well. You're pulling water out of the same well again and again and again. And that's why oftentimes the college counseling experience at many private high schools is similarly mediocre. Let's put it that way. Because these are sort of interchangeable cogs in many cases, not all, but in many cases, based off of one search firm's criteria for what makes a good college counselor or what makes a good director of college counseling in a private school. It's all getting bottlenecked up and viewed through the prism of what the search consultants at that firm think makes a good college counselor or good director of college counselor. So what's happened is these high schools, these independent high schools around the world, particularly in the United States, outsource the thinking of what do we want in a college counselor to a search firm. And the search firm thinks the same way basically for all high schools, all around the country or all around the world that they're working with. That's not going to end well. That's going to create... You might think it's end well, they have the experience in hiring college counselors for a lot of schools all around the country every year. They know what's best. But do they really know what's best for the students and the family and the culture of that school? I would argue no, because there's a lot of intangibles that would make someone a really good college counselor for a particular high school that are not really being scrutinized as well when a search firm is involved. And the administration of that school sort of washes their hands of responsibility in many cases of hiring that person. And because they spent money on the search firm, once that person's there, it's harder to get rid of that person. And it's just a mess. This is, of course, true of other roles, too, not just college counseling. It's very true of heads of schools and heads of school and associate heads of school and directors of DEI and directors of athletic departments, et cetera. So I am always suspicious of a high school or a school that relies a lot on search firms, because what that means is that the board of that school, the HR department of that school, committees within that school are basically not available to or willing to engage in the heavy lifting necessary to find right fit candidates for that school, for that student population, for that parent population. And they just want to outsource it to a search firm in New England. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.